again. Then we'll see that F4, F22, and speaking of coming back in, there's Sean Carroll right now in the Yak-9. The Yakolev Design Bureau, one of those several very, very important design bureaus that helped change the way aviation took place in the world, because the Russians had some brilliant aeronautical engineers working on radical aircraft designs that changed the world of air combat. The Yakolev Design Bureau, the Yakolev Design Bureau, the Sukhoi Design Bureau. Well, this is the Yak-9. There were 35,000 Yak-1, Yak-3, and Yak-9 aircraft built. The most prolific or most numerous model was the Yak-9. And their sole purpose was to fight off the Luftwaffe. Its main adversary was the Messerschmitt Bf-109 single-seat high-performance fighter, and also the German Focke-Wulf FW-190. Both of those airplanes were sent aloft to attack bombers, Allied bombers like B-17s and B-24s that were trying to get into Germany and bomb German military and industrial targets to stop the German war machine in World War II. The B-17 heavy bombers and the B-24 heavy bombers, the Flying Fortresses and the Liberators, as they were known, each had about 10 crew members per airplane. They were responsible for not only flying the airplane and finding the target and delivering bombs on target, but several crew members were specifically tasked with manning 50 caliber machine guns as defensive weapons against airplanes like the FW-190 and the Bf-109. On the Eastern Front, the Yak-9 was one of the airplanes that went up against the Luftwaffe fighters. And in World War II, the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, reported over 94,000 aircraft missing in action. That's a huge number of airplanes. More than 62,000 of those losses took place on the Eastern Front. That's where Russia was in conflict with the Germans. And most of those 62,000 losses were attributed to Yak fighters. From the right, Sean Carroll, a civilian pilot, piloting a very, very unique warbird powered by an Allison V12 liquid-cooled engine. The original Yaks were powered by Klimov V12 liquid-cooled engines. But this one, there are no Klimov engines, V12s left. So this one is the only Allison-powered Yak in existence today, if I have my information correct. This is one fast airplane. As a matter of fact, at the Reno National Air Races that are held every September in Reno, Nevada, back in 2002, this airplane took third place in the unlimited bronze class with a qualifying speed of 364 miles per hour. It's the first Allison-powered Yak fighter ever to finish a race at Reno. Production ended on the Yak-9 in 1953, but in the mid-1990s, at the original Yakolev factory, there were parts, brand new parts that were discovered at that factory, enough of them to build from those parts 7 Yak-9 aircraft. This one is number 4 of those 7 that were built. The nose comes up. And Sean Carroll performs a barrel roll, a deceptively simple-looking maneuver in which he pivots around an imaginary spot in the sky, 45 degrees up and to the left of his airplane. Boy, this airplane just gets up and goes. That throttle in his left hand, he says, just gives it an amazing amount of power. When he shoves it forward, he really gets the kind of power that he needs. Diving toward the ground, approaching 325 miles per hour. With an air-to-air mission, a ground attack mission, a light bomber mission, and a fighter escort mission. The sound of the Allison V-12. It's a V-1710, rated at 1,600 horsepower. The Allison V-1710 was also used in the P-40 Warhawk. The P-40 was not only used by the United States Army Air Force, but also by the Royal Air Force as one of their frontline fighters. It was used by General Claire Chennault's American Volunteer Group in 1939 and 1940, when volunteer pilots took off their military uniforms and as civilians volunteered to fight in P-40 Warhawks against the Japanese on behalf of the Chinese who were fighting the Japanese on their soil prior to America's entry into World War II. America joined the war effort against the Axis powers just one day after the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor. The day that will live in infamy, December 7th, 1941. One day later, the world was changed forever. Because as the architect of Japanese air power said after the attack on Pearl Harbor, he said, "I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant." And that in fact was the case. Sean's got a couple of kids in the military, and he is very, very proud of them. As a civilian pilot, he's got one daughter who is quickly graduating up to flying this airplane. She's flying some smaller airplanes now, but soon she'll be flying this airplane as well. The V-17 engine, the V-1710 engine that's in this Yak was the same type that was actually used in the early P-51 Mustangs that were delivered to the British, I want to say in early 1942 or early 1942, I believe. And the Allison engine did not perform as well at high altitudes as the British needed it to perform. So the Mustangs were outfitted with the same kind of engines that the Royal Air Force used in their Spitfires and Hurricanes. The Rolls-Royce Merlin V-12 engine, originally designed for automobile racing, it quickly became one of the most important engines in all of World War II. And here on the static display area, we've got a couple of those British airplanes. We have a Spitfire, a Supermarine Spitfire, and we also have a Hawker Hurricane from the fighter factory. We also have down to the right, along with them, a P-47 Thunder.